My name is BJ Kowalski. I'm the CEO of Rowe Dental Laboratory. We're excited to have Dr. Isaac Tawil with us here today, talking about the latest technology for full arch restorations, the latest technology for digital dentistry in an office. We're going to talk a little bit and more specifically about Shining 3D's technology. Rowe's a distributor of Shining 3D technology, and been working really hard on a new innovation that's coming to the marketplace that combines photogrammetry and iOS technology in one simple, fast solution that is really going to change markets and help patients get treatment even faster and more accurate than there was before.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to discuss this and embrace this new technology with you here at Rowe Dental Laboratory.
Yeah, your depth of knowledge on all the systems in the marketplace and history with it, and knowledge of the full workflow is really tough to replicate, and I see why Shining has made you the clinical director of Shining 3D, between all your not only technical expertise in dentistry, but also digital expertise and knowing what doctors need to make this technology successful in the practice and profitable.
Thank you. Couldn't have done any of that without the help of the team here at Rowe, because they actually helped teach me and bring me up into my reins of digital dentistry, starting from my earlier days when I was just barely a digital dentist to now where I am helping to develop. And I've been beta testing and developing new technology here for years, and Rowe's been there as my backbone for the last 10 years or so, helping me implement that technology and helping us improve upon it. So thank you very much for having me here, because it is exciting to be here and discuss about this new technology, and there's no better place to do it than the place where it all started for me here at Rowe Dental Labs.
So I know you use a lot of 3D printing from some of the 3D printing parts and prostheses that we make for you. Do you do 3D printing in your office, and how do you see 3D printing, being a part of the average dentist, weekly, workflow, weekly process? Do you see a place for it, or do you think it's more of a kind of a novelty?
I think it's becoming a necessity at this point. When we first started, again, going back to like my first Form 1 printer, that was seldom used. It was 3.5 hours to print something, and it printed it well. We have to say it was printed well, but who has 3.5 hours to print something? Even setting up the software, getting things to get printed. There was no AI built in. There was no automatic struts back then, automatic drain holes, automatic layouts. So supports were annoying to be able to create. Now things are so simple. So with the new printer that we're using, we did have an evolution going from several different
What are you
printers.
currently using?
So the new printer that we've been using from Shining 3D is the AccuFab Cell. We were using the L4D before that, which was a very nice printer, printed pretty fast, about an hour for a model. Now we're printing things in 15 minutes. And the beauty of that part is, after I'm done printing, I just take off the build plate, put it right into the wash, and it automatically cuts and drops whatever I'm printing
that is a
right
nice
into
feature.
the wash.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Incredible. Your hands, you don't have to get dirty anymore. I'm sitting there chopping things off of build plates for years, and just became a little annoying. And sometimes you break a model trying to do that. You're working with a sharp object. Sometimes you're gonna break some eggs here and there. So for me, that was a big help, because I didn't have to worry about that. Even with the L4D, we didn't have to worry about that. But then just having the wash and cure talk to each other. So we have the printer prints in about 15 minutes. The wash does its washing in a known set time, because the printer that just printed said it printed this type of material. So the wash now understands how much time it needs to wash. You don't have to program the wash. You also don't have to program the cure, because they're talking to each other by Wi-Fi. So the printer knows it's using, let's say, model resin. The wash knows you're using model resin. The cure knows it's expecting model resin. And it asks you, do you want, it says it on there, would you like to cure with this material? So there's really, takes all the guesswork out of things, and you don't over-cure something by accident. You don't overwash a material by accident. Everything's really more seamless and easy to use, where a general assistant can be able to do this. You don't need a lab tech. So when you ask me, am I printing in my office? We're printing everything.
What kind of things do you print?
We're making models all day long,
Yeah.
For different reasons, just for evaluation. We haven't poured up a model in many years, but we're even making our guides with you. We've kind of gotten away, not that there's anything wrong with Chrome guides, and we can get them pretty quickly, but we've gone away from the Chrome guides and been manufacturing more resin guides with you. You're doing all of our planning. That's something that I really don't want to. I can plan cases, I can plan bone reduction. It takes me time, and I want my hands in people's mouths. And I rely on quality people and your staff. I've helped train some of them over the years, so I have a good feel of your staff, and they know what I like. And as you work with a planner, they get to know what you want out of your cases. So before I even meet them on our online sessions, things are pretty much planned where I want them. So you hold an hour meeting for your planning sessions. I think I occupy about 10 minutes of that hour because they know me already. They know what I want. And the more cases you do with them, the faster they get at understanding your philosophy. So we're printing the guides. We're printing stackable guides. We're printing combo guides. We're not necessarily making teeth anymore with the prefabricated philosophy where we're eluting things in the mouth. We're doing a lot of design work with you instead. So we're being able to print the guides, then we're scanning the case and we're sending it over to you for 1 hour prints, usually 1 hour turnaround designs. And we are printing with the AccuFab cell, and the whole thing's done in under an hour. The design, print, and cure. And it's being inserted in the patient's mouth. So instead of having to stack things up and getting things messy in the mouth with our temporaries, we can have a nice design and have a beautiful print and be able to utilize that for our patient to try to keep the occlusion. We're finding we barely have to touch occlusion these days because of some of the amazing technology that's out there that you've helped to embrace and actually helped to train on. And you've actually helped a lot in development as well here at Roe, and changing some of the philosophies that have been existing prior. Fortunately, you have some great people at Roe that have given us some brilliant ideas that have helped make things a little bit more streamlined so that we're getting beautiful, nice printed teeth same day. And sometimes it's not even from surgery. Sometimes I have a patient that's coming in that just needs to convert over a prosthetic. They have a full arch zirconia, maybe it's fractured, and we have to do a same day turnaround. You're been readily available for us, which has been great for being able to get a 1 hour design back and deliver to our patient a brand new temporary from maybe a patient that was 10 years old of a full arch zirconia.
Yeah, gone are the days of trying to make a temporary chair side.
Repairing them.
Repairing them.
I don't repair them anymore. We used to take the wires and bond pieces together. Someone would come in with a broken temporary or a broken zirconia, and we'd bond it together temporarily until we can be able to fabricate a new one. Now I wouldn't even bother with that. I just call you guys up, you get me a nice design, we print it, and the patient leaves with a brand new temp. And if that temp breaks, well, guess what? It's only 25 minutes to make a new one with the wash and the cure. So typically for our cases, we always print a backup. Once we know that this fits nicely and we don't have to adjust anything, we print a backup temporary just in case. For our finals, obviously, we keep the files. And then if somebody was to break something at some point, obviously things will get even faster and better as we keep going along. But we can actually fabricate that new temporary instead of trying to repair an old one. So if we just keep the files, store the files correctly, and then we can just be able to just print a new one and then call you up and say, hey, mill me a new zirconia based off of this. Or maybe it's time to make some changes in that zirconia frame. So we will rescan the soft tissue, maybe make some changes, maybe move middle lines over, color changes, things like that. So we'll discuss that with you and maybe even make a new design.
I know we're doing a lot of cases for you direct to MUA without tie bases in both the provisional and the final prosthesis. How's that working out? Is that going
It's been a
good
massive
success?
game changer, absolutely massive game changer, using the different screw systems. And one thing that I love about Roe is that they're very agnostic to the screw system. So we've used the Powerball screw, we've used the Vortex screw, we've used the Rosen screw, we've used the new desk screws to go direct to MUA. So you've been very, very good to work with that. And we've tried them all because we want the testing with them. So far, we've been seeing just incredible results, both in our provisionals and in our finals.
No appreciable increase in problems or failures? We've
had a decrease in problems or failures. So far, I mean, I want to knock on wood somewhere, so I guess my head would be the closest thing. So far, we haven't had any zirconia fractures, which has been a tremendous thing for us. Now, granted, this is 2 years in, 2 years and change, but we've had we haven't had any fractures at all. We did have one case that recently I discovered that maybe my impressions weren't done so well, and I didn't love the fit, and I found some tissue inflammation around an implant. That's the closest thing I could talk about, and so I'm redoing that case with you now. Happens to be. That was my first thing, but again, it was probably something on the capture side on my end. And we rescanned everything, and we noticed there was a noticeable difference in that implant position. So it was something else that I decided to change. But the main thing is the provisionals. I haven't really seen anyone really significantly break teeth. When I have some people that don't return, it's been 4 or 5 months, they haven't come back in for their checkups, their temps get loose, they start biting on them, then things break. It's happened 1 or 2 times. Was it a big deal? No. We just reprinted another temp. They usually call us, hey, it's loose, I feel something chipped. We had somebody come in the other day, they said that their provisional had broken, they felt the chip. So we said, let's print a new one. We printed a new one, we had it ready, patient sat down in the chair, I looked, it was an access hole. The temporary material had fallen out of the access hole. So I didn't have to use my temporary, but how much does it cost to make a new temporary? I kept it in the patient's lab box, and we kept it just in case something else happens down the road. But we're actually finalizing that case as we speak, so that's not really a huge concern for us right now. But just being able to have that ability, it's remarkable. And we didn't have this at all.
Yeah.
There was nothing like it. You convert a denture, and that was all you had.
All your eggs in one basket, right?
What are you doing with that conversion? Are you flasking it? Are you giving it to the lab to copy overnight? Are you desktop scanning it? That's really all you had. Now, we have a file, we print it. And when we want to start over, we can start over quite easily. If we're not happy with things, we can at least have our position of where we're at and scan everything and say, move it over this way, move it over that way. And obviously there's other tools that we can use besides an intraoral scanner to be able to accomplish that.
On those direct to MUA cases, which are most of them, what screw system have you settled on to use the most frequently now? I know you kind of use them all.
We've been using grammetry philosophy is to use the vortex screw, and it's been a great screw. I haven't had any trouble with it. I really like this screw. It's usable for all the different systems, for the Streamlines system, for the Nobel system. So we're pretty much right on cue with the vortex screw.
Okay.
We've been using that the most. The other one that we like is the Powerball screw. That's been using well for us. For temporaries, we used some Rosen screws in the past, and that's also a very good screw, but we've been mostly using, I'd say 90% has been with the vortex screw. And we like to try other things in our practice because we're looking for comparison results. So we want to see long-term how things hold up. So 90% has been with the vortex, and then experimenting with the other ones. The tried and true ones to me are going to be the Powerball and the vortex screw, since they have great history with final zirconia. With the Rosen screw, we've only had temporaries and very few finals, so I can't comment about that. I'm sure it's a great screw. I just only have a couple of finals with the Rosen screw.
Not that you use it that much, but the built-in angulation correction option is nice because you don't have to.
That's the best feature. Those two. That's the main reason why we use the Powerball and the vortex. Vortex giving you 15 degrees going direct MUA. The Powerball also giving you that amount, but the vortex going up to 25 degree once you include a tie base. So we've ditched the tie bases, but occasionally we have some cases that, let's say, weren't ours. When we plant things, I try to plant things straight. Obviously, we do use multi-units, and we can accommodate with angulation. So if we need to build in some extra angulation that overcomes a screw, we'll use a 17 degree. I pretty much don't use 30s anymore. I mean, I don't have cases with 30s. There are some zygoma cases that we have that are going to go to that level, but having that vortex gives you that added benefit. So if you had 30, that's 45 up to go on your angulation. So you really do have a lot of play if you are using these screws going direct to MUA. If I need to go to 25 more and I have a 30, I can get up to 55 with using a tie base or a metal bar. So that gives me some comfort knowing that I'm always in a good position to be able to restore the cases appropriately. But as you know, I'm sure you know, I like most of my cases are nice straight implants, and I'm mostly using 0 degree multi-units just to get the passivity, which we cannot get if we go direct to implant unless we're going to do a cementable type of a case. But those screw retain cases that we have when we go direct to implant become more problematic because we have to engage the hexagon, octagon, trilobe, and that just puts extra stress on the prosthetic or on the implants. And at some point, something's got to give. And I don't think we're at the point of accuracy yet where we can go direct to implant, at least in the modern world, going direct to implant where we can print things same day, where we can build things same day. One day, I hope that could be a reality, but for now, unless you're using external hex implants, I think you're limited to using the multi-unit to accomplish that passivity and still get the same day or 1 hour printed try-ins.
Going back to the journey from analog to digital, what benefit or value do you see for using either one company or one distribution vendor for this equipment that you need in the office, from scanning and printing and cleaning? Is there a value to kind of keeping it in one ecosystem versus using different companies? I wonder what your opinion of that and the challenges of integrating different technology from different vendors or distributors.
So I think the first thing is being able to understand that a lot of things are going to be third party open systems. So you may have an intraoral scanner from here, a printer from there, a facial scanner from here. You may have lots of different things, and you want everything to work together. If you're using different vendors to accomplish that, it makes it harder to get the right education. That's number one. So you have to make sure that you are being educated that these systems will work together, or how to use them together, because that seems to be the biggest obstacle. Again, you don't want these massive paperweights in your office, a 3D printer that can't talk or accept other things, or a scanner that can't export and being more open. It becomes more problematic. So sticking with one vendor, usually what will happen with that vendor, like let's say you pick Rowe as an example. When I work with Rowe, it doesn't matter what system I'm buying, they have used all those systems. They've done testing with all those systems, and I'm one of those testers, so I know this to be fact, where we make sure everything works together in a seamless way. So if you have a intraoral scanner and a printer, we want to make sure it talks to each other well and they can accept the files well. If we have a facial scanner and an intraoral scanner, we want to make sure those talk to each other well. So using the same vendor, if it's the same vendor, it could be good as long as they give you the right education and they have the right support. If you have both of those two things together, things will flow nicely and you'll get value out of your purchase. Everything is going to be ROI, return on investment, at some point. If you invest in a piece of technology and it's $50,000 and you're not seeing return on that $50,000 within a few months, that's a major issue. I don't think people realize that, because you need to keep expanding your technology. It's always going to be something new, and you want to be able to purchase that new product. So if you're going to have something and you're going to spend $50,000 and it doesn't make itself money within the first few months, like if you buy a CBCT, you see the value right away. You're diagnosing, you're treatment planning better. You're being able to accomplish surgeries that maybe you would have sent out, or root canals that you may not have done. You're diagnosing your cases saying, wow, there's not as much crown to root ratio left on that tooth once I do my measurements, which you couldn't see on a two-dimensional x-ray before. Or you're finding lesions that you didn't see before that are saving you from trouble. So you're seeing that return on your investment right away. Even at a $80,000 CBCT, I'm getting value besides the case acceptance and patient wow factor that you're going to get from buying these digital technologies. You need to get implementation of that technology. So having the right vendor that understands all of that, because it's all comes together at some point, becomes paramount. There's not a lot of companies that do put it all together. Working with you guys, you have adopted all the new technology. It doesn't matter what scanner you have, doesn't matter what printer you have, doesn't matter what CBCT you have, it doesn't matter what facial scanner you have. You're able to get all of this technology and bundle it together and explain to the clinician how to use it. And even if they can't understand that part, you guys are able to understand that part. Your technicians understand that part. Your designers understand that part. Your planners understand that part. That's the key to success, to being able to get the return on the investment from your initial purchase. And it shouldn't have to be something that takes you a year to catch up to. If it is, guess what? A year later, you might be on a new technology. Now you're doing that whole thing again just to break even on your device. You need to be making money on that device from day one. You need to see return on investment within the first few months and be able to adapt to new technology. So working with the same vendor, they're constantly adapting, they're constantly implementing. If they only sell one product or they only understand one product, they're always going to force you down that same pipeline, and you're never going to be able to broaden your horizons and do other things. You're stuck in that world. I don't like to use this that often because seems like I'm always bashing on the Sirona world, but that world locked people in for so long. I used to call them the evil empire until they literally opened up their system where now people can utilize all the data from it. But you were locked in from the scanner to the mill. Now they have the printer, you were locked into that printer. Until they opened it up and freed themselves, they weren't really able to expand out enough, and those doctors got stuck in this ecosystem where they can only do it this way. They could not go any around workflows. And patients aren't like that. Cases aren't like that.
Yeah.
Every case deviates. You've seen them. I don't know how many cases you guys have seen in this laboratory that have to be like prosthetically gymnastic to be able to accomplish. I'm stealing a Scott Gans word there. Being able to overcome these technical challenges of poor angulations, poor designs, trying to be able to accommodate, and the implants are in there, they're integrated. What are you going to do? I mean, you're going to tell the patient that you can't restore it, or are you going to say, let's try to do the best we can, restore this case, it might be a little compromised, do you want to keep going ahead or you want to redo the case? You give the patient that option. But a lot of the cases are really prosthetic gymnastics trying to accomplish tremendous feats of being able to restore them. If you're locked into one path, you're stuck. If you can
like the
overcome,
old adage of everything, if you have a hammer, everything's a nail, right?
Maslow's law. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And sometimes all we have is screws, and we think that that's the only option. Fortunately, we have mixed cases. We have dentate cases that we mix with implants. We don't think in one direction. You should not be a service that just does one thing and only one thing. You want to be able to accept everything and be able to treat it the right way, the best way for that patient, and the best way for your practice.
Today we did a really interesting experiment
Yep.
with the head engineer from Shining 3D, Alan Banks, yourself, where you scanned almost 40 models with an iOS system from Shining that also takes photogrammetry images at the same time, and then you compared that with the standard market-leading photogrammetry system from iMetric, and you took almost 40 scans of those, and you're going to compare them for accuracy. Tell me about what you hope to accomplish with that.
So this is some amazing technology that we've now introduced into the marketplace. Coming from the world of photogrammetry, which I've been embracing for many years, I'm a big fan of iMetric, the iCam unit. It's an absolutely fantastic photogrammetry unit. It's done extremely well for me at being able to finalize my cases. If you have an iMetric system, it's great. You could keep using it. It's a wonderful device. But we have one problem with photogrammetry, and is that we still have to match the extraoral photogrammetry scan to the intraoral scan that we're capturing, whether you're taking impressions and scanning them, whatever you may be doing. Also, the cost of these photogrammetry units are quite expensive. If you're performing multiple arches every week, every month, it's worth it. It's a great investment. There's no doubt about it. If you're only doing a few a year, it becomes very expensive to devote, anywhere between $20,000 to $50,000 for one of these photogrammetric units. Last year, I became the clinical director for Shining 3D, and they had showed me some things that were in the works, and we had tried to steer things in a certain direction, and we decided to come out with the first ever intraoral scanner / intraoral photogrammetric unit. It's called the Shining Elite, and basically what it's doing is being able to capture the soft tissue or hard tissue in some cases. If you're doing a surgery, you can match it to fiducial markers, but the idea will be to capture the photogrammetry intraorally, just like the intraoral scanning. So you'll take an intraoral scan, you'll take a photogrammetric scan, and then one of the subsequent scans will match the intraphotogrammetric scan to the intraoral scan.
One piece of equipment.
One piece of
so
equipment.
It's a small, thin
It's incredible.
wand, and that big box is gone.
No more big box, and that was a little heavy. They did come out with smaller, more ergonomic units in the defense of the photogrammetry units that are out there, but they still don't have the ability to match. They can only capture externally, and you have to now import files internally to be able to, into your software, to be able to match two together, which requires some human hands to do that. Even if you had AI doing it, it's fine, but it's still two separate softwares. What we've been able to do is using this really elegant, sleek, nice wand that feels almost like a cigar in your hand. It's that small.
So
it's
fast
really,
as well.
Really sleek, extremely fast. I can't believe how crisp and clear the data just comes out as the scans look just realistic and sharp. You can scheme metal beautifully. It's a really beautiful scanner. And more importantly, it also accommodates for intraoral photogrammetry. So we call it IPG. So you have the iOS, the IPG in one unit. We call it the Shining Elite. And it really is a next level, next generation scanner. There is nothing else like this on the market. The price is just incredible. I can't believe that they're actually giving this away at such an inexpensive price. It's under $20,000.
So it's basically the cost of an intraoral scanner, and you get photogrammetry right
Again,
with
the best
it.
of both worlds. So if you're not a full arch doctor yet, but you anticipate you becoming a full arch doctor, or you have a handful of full arch scans every year, you already have the scanner does both. So you don't have to buy a photogrammetry unit. You have the intraoral photogrammetry. So our goal today is to measure up and see what the accuracy is. Now we have some other studies done. We want to do this ourselves. The other studies show that we are, this unit itself is more precise than photogrammetry when it's used externally. So that we know. Our trueness is just a lag behind, but it's right there. It's like neck and neck. So overall, it's the studies that we have so far are saying that we are as good, or if not better, than extraoral photogrammetry. This study is to validate that. We want to see the positions of the implants, make sure. So yes, we took almost 40 scans and we measured that out. But the bigger part of this that I think is going to be the most important part is the fact that we're matching it in the mouth. So if we put in these scan bodies in the mouth, we scan the mouth, let's say the tissue first. We put in the scan bodies. We scan those. The next step is to match that intraoral photogrammetry scan to the actual tissue. And it blends it together. Imagine taking a bite.
So your scan bodies are basically scan bodies with dots on them that are photogrammetry scan
coded.
bodies,
Correct.
and then just scans with the patient's healing caps in.
Exactly.
That's all you take.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the key is we're now matching that coded scan body with the black and white dots on it, or the black with the white dots on it, and we're matching that to the tissue. So what does that mean in the long run? Number one, we're reducing human error. We're not relying on external matching in a separate software. So you don't have to go into another software, match those two together. That reduces time. It reduces error. So when we open up a scan, let's say now we ship this out, because my goal with this is to be able to make a 1 hour print. I don't want a long design time. I want a quick design time. I may have a prefabricated design. All I really need is to implement that design quickly. So
I guess to note about how quickly it is, we have a room full of people that are doing full art designs all day long, like about a dozen of them. And that scanner actually made a lot of them real nervous.
Yes,
because they're like, "This is my job. All my alignment, is all gone. It's just."
So one of your designers had mentioned and said, a little cuss word in the middle, like, "Oh no," didn't say no. He said, "What does this mean?" In his head. And I said, "It doesn't mean you're out of a job. It means you're that much more productive, because your job is designing. Your job is not matching. Matching is annoying. It's tedious. It's not something that we really want. Yeah. And it slows down the print.
Yeah.
So instead of doing only 1 or 2 designs in an hour, maybe we can knock out 5 to 10 designs in an hour if things are going well, and doctors are submitting their files. So if you have a design that you're waiting for from the laboratory and you can get a faster turnaround time, that means you're printing faster. That means the patient's leaving with teeth faster. And we're reducing the error by having that matching. So when this populates in, let's pick exocad as an example. When we go into exocad, you open up the file, there's nothing to do. You don't have to even determine where the implants are. It knows where the implants are because you're marking them in the software or during your order form. It's matching everything automatically, exporting it out. I send you over the file. I choose Row as my lab. I send it over. Your lab tech opens it up, and everything populates. The prefabricated structure, if there was a denture, or if it was a set of a dentate case where we have some teeth, that populates. the multi-units populate, the fiducial markers populate, everything populates. So now your lab tech, all they have to do is bring in that design. They bring in the MUA scan of the healing collars, all of that's brought in, and they just have to move everything over and accommodate for the angled channels to figure out where those screw access holes are going to be. And that should be where the time is spent. Not in matching, in figuring out where can I move this so that I can get the most aesthetic and most comfortable design. Not spending so much time in matching. And that's the biggest, I would say, golden piece to this puzzle that we haven't been able to solve, because that's been a major delay in getting these cases back quickly. We like to say that we can do a 1 hour design and turnaround time. Now we can effectively say that easily. And if you're on time and the tech is on time, you can get, basically designs back. I don't want to quote here any numbers, but significantly faster, because of the fact that this is doing a lot of that tedious work that wasn't really requiring a super tech to do it in such a short period of time.
Yeah, we went from offering a 2 hour design maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago when this first started, to an hour design under 45 minutes, and this might take it down to maybe like 20 minutes.
And we've gotten back some, I don't want to quote numbers because I don't want to hold anything to this, but we've gotten some designs back in even under that amount of time, just because everything was scanned right and done correctly, and the design fit perfectly of what we wanted, and all your designers or technicians had to do was just bring that in, accommodate for the angled channels, and send it right back to us, and we were printing. We've actually finished the case with printing in under 45 minutes altogether.
Everything.
And that's not with a lab at my side during chairside in surgery. Right. This is with a lab in another state, hundreds of miles away, getting that to us extremely fast, and patient is walking out in under an hour with those teeth without a tech around. It's pretty impressive. That's a good
comment about just communication and having a good workflow, because a lot of our time that is spent doing that is just, where are the files? Where are they coming from? How are we getting it? When we get it from that scanner, it's all coming in one simple package right from it. The photogrammetry scan, the iOS scan, all coming in together. We can instantly design it.
And if we had a facial scan, the facial scan would be in there too.
Yeah, so have you done many facial scans?
Many.
How do you think that complements the design? I know from a lab perspective, we find it does a great job, and it really helps us design better. What do you think?
I think it's one of those devices that you say to yourself, I have to have, but I couldn't afford, and now it's affordable.
Right. At $20,000, it's tough to justify.
It was hard at $20,000. Yeah. If you're using it all day, it's like photogrammetry, and you were going to spend $40,000 on the photogrammetry unit. You needed it because you're using it all day. Facial scanner was a little bit expensive. Now it's actually affordable, and the value, the numerical values we're getting, being able to measure alar tragus, being able to look at golden proportion ratios, being able to look at where our positions of our nose are, being able to look at midline, being able to look at canting, all of these things can really significantly help us to make those provisionals, but more importantly at our finals. So yes, we do use it for same-day surgery, but to be honest with you, the main goal that I want for a day of surgery is for the patient to leave with teeth. Even if they're slanted. I can fix it tomorrow, but today I need the patient to leave with teeth. But we're not seeing those slanted teeth anymore. If we're having discrepancies, they're minor. They're very minor. And then we rescan them once the patient is not numb and they're healed up. Maybe a week or two later, we can rescan really nicely. Usually we won't need to, but we might do that at the 3-month finalization time if there's any changes that really need to be accomplished. But the biggest attribute of this is in the pre-planning. We have a patient with teeth. We see the midline is off, we recognize it right away. If you're on a slight angle and you're taking a photograph, you're not going to see that. If the lighting's not right, you're going to miss things. You're not getting numerical values from the two-dimensional picture. Just not happening. You can try to get certain interpupillary distances, but that's turning a round device into a flat design. So that really doesn't give us all the answers. So having that 3D, we can really look if a patient has a deviated septum, if they're not where things are supposed to be. We can comment about that before the surgery. Not taking a picture and saying, oh, it looked good on the 2D picture. Yes, we still use pictures. We use them for our before and afters. They help us a lot. They give us a lot of information. I'm not saying don't take a picture. This is an adjunctive tool, and it's becoming a standard in our full arch surgery or in our full arch cases, and even in our veneer cases that we have that are just a handful of veneers, because we're able to check and see if we're canting, which really saves us a lot of time and effort. We're not seeing a lot of remakes and having to send things back and forth. So it's empowering the laboratory with a tremendous amount of information. The laboratory has to be able to understand and implement that. Unfortunately, a lot of the labs are not implementing that. They're still stuck with just using it as an eye candy shot, which doesn't help anything. You need to understand how to utilize it. You need to get the measurements off of it. Your lab technicians have appreciated the technology. They've embraced it. They've helped it on design. They pointed out things to me that I didn't see because they saw it from numerical values. They said, yeah, measuring this out, it's not the right numbers. That's the way to implement this technology. It's not just one of these patient acceptance devices. It's not just one of those. It's a great tool to wow your patients. There's no doubt about it. But we need the value of the information that's coming from it so that we can use it for the patient to better their surgery, to better their restorative results. And that's the goal. Being efficient, not having to do several remakes, not going back and forth to the lab 6, 7 times just to be able to fix the canting, not trying to add composite onto things all the time and move midlines and draw Sharpie markers all over teeth just to be able to accomplish this, being able to do it fully digitally. So one question that I always get asked, what does it mean to be a digital dentist? And a lot of people think it means just getting an intraoral scanner. And it's not. That's not all it is. Digital dentistry, how you become digital, is implementing all those tools. It's having the intraoral scanner. It's having the 3D printer. If you're a miller, great. For us in New York, it's hard to fit a mill. I'm not really interested in milling and doing all that tedious lab work. The printing is easier. The milling right now is still more complicated. But it's not just that. It's having the facial scanner. It's implementing all those things, implementing the CBCT, all involved, and then using that information. Not just having it, using it, getting all the values and all the information, all the data, and building up your pre-planned workflow and then executing that. Once it's executed, whether it's guided or free-handed, whatever your choice may be, then being able to recapture that so that we can finalize the cases efficiently. We can't have people coming back 6, 7, 8 times. And in the past it was even longer than that. And we cut it down to 6 or 7 times and we said, that's great. But it's a very competitive market out there. You got these large DSOs performing a lot of these large cases for very inexpensive prices. How are we going to compete with that? Yes, you can say you're better than them, you give more TLC to your patient, you have more time, you're going to spend with them, you're going to give them everything you have, you can give them your heart and soul because it's your practice. But when you're a big DSO, where they can do pretty much the same thing at a fraction of the price, how do you compete with that? Well, how do you do that? By shortening your visits. If you can shorten your visits to just a few and not have so many in between, you can be more productive, and maybe you can bring your price down for your patients to compete with even some of those DSOs. So it's a necessity to me, not just for the bigger corporate type of dentists, but for the private practitioners that are trying to compete in this world of corporate dentistry.
What do you see as the future for dental labs with this new evolving nature of digital technology in the dental office and the dental lab / dentist relationship?
I think it's dramatically changed already. We've seen large, massive laboratories reduce the size of their technicians that were more bread and butter technicians, pouring models and just doing basic lab work, waxing up designs and things like that. And we've switched over to the more of the digital technician, the IT technician, information technology designers. They need to understand that digital workflow. They need to understand how to use 3Shape, ExoCAD, Dental Wings, all the different sort of code diagnostics, Real Guide, Blue Sky Bio, all of these different softwares, and be able to implement them. And I think that there's a bigger need for the design aspect of it and less of a need for the hands-on manufacturing side of things. I think that dentistry is getting more improved on the printing side. We're seeing some incredible types of resins that are coming out now that are, you know, touted to be as strong as some other materials, not as zirconia, but as strong as some other materials where they're competitive enough. We certainly know that we can use things like iVotion, and we can use even some printed materials that can even compete with iVotion. So that is coming, and dentists want to do it in their office. They want to have it quickly accessible. So if we make a crown, maybe we want it designed quickly and printed quickly and it's cemented in the mouth. We have some resins that we're using now that are for final crowns. So single tooth, yeah, we're doing it. Are we doing it yet for full arch? No, we're not there yet.
Are you putting in single printed crowns as a definitive restoration?
We're experimenting with some new things that are coming out now, and they're being designed by the technician. I'm not designing it myself. I have no interest. Again, I want to be in another room being productive.
Where you can make more money.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is still, the robots aren't here yet. They're coming, but they're not here yet. Yeah. So right now, these are the most productive things that I have in my office. This is the second most productive thing I have in my office. This has to talk to this. And if these are working all the time, then we're being productive for the office. And I hate to think of dentistry as a business. I went into dentistry because it's a form of medicine, and I want to take care of people. But you can't take care of people if you can't keep your doors open and you can't keep a full staff. And our staff needs to be working. You need them to be active, and they can only be active if you're active. So the more that these can handle, and the more of these I have in the office, whether it's other dentists, hygienists, assistants, the more productive we can be. If that means you're going to install your own lab, great, more power to you. If you have the room, you have the wherewithal, the design, it's great. I'm in New York. I'm not installing a full service lab. I can put some printers in my office. We have a bunch of printers. We're using really the AccuFab cell for everything that we do now, but we can accept files much easier and print than it is for us to sit there and design. And I'm not really interested in going down that road, but I think that there's going to be that time and place where we're even milling in the office. But again, I don't want to design. So I think laboratories are going to be shifting over more towards implementing more designers and continuing to innovate and being able to reduce chair time for the doctors. And the clinician side of it is going to be accepting those files and having some assistants that may be enhanced assistants that can deal with these staining and glazing and all of that side of dentistry. So yes, Row is a massive place. We're here that has a lot of people working in there, but I think as those people get older, and as we get older, we're going to see less of those people doing hands-on work and more of those people sitting behind the computer doing design work with a mouse and a keyboard, instead of having all of this lab technicians using everything with their hands. So it's a very different world that we're entering. We're not at the top. We're not even close to the apex. We're still just on that incline. So we're here. We're going to be here within a few years, and I don't know if that's the top. It's just going to keep going. I don't know that there is a down yet, and I don't see a down coming. And I think that all of this is going to be leading more and more towards designers, technicians, and you as a clinician need to understand that workflow. You don't necessarily have to know how to do the workflow. You have to understand it so you know what you want, so you can communicate that to the lab, and then the lab can implement your desires. And having good technicians that can implement that and give you success will shorten your chair time, will help you become more efficient and be able to keep your hands in patients' mouths all day. And the same thing in your side of it, it's less of that stone and model work and even printing work here. It's going to be more of the printing work in your own office, milling work in your own office, where we can get same-day dentistry to be a reality at all phases, not just for provisionals.
Well, thanks for your insight on that. I appreciate it. So for a doctor that wants to get involved and say they want to go all in, say I want to go from being an analog dentist or just maybe have an older scanner that they need to upgrade to being, I want to get the whole package and get really my office connected with the future. What would be your current recommendation on technology?
So for me, it's all within that realm now where we can touch and feel and do this quite easily. We can get the intraoral scanner, a facial scanner, a 3D printer, and we can incorporate all of that together. The intraoral scanner having the intraoral photogrammetry aspect to it as well, and kind of bundle it all together. If we can get it in one place and be able to just implement it all successfully, it's become successful and gives you that return on the investment. So if you're looking to go, let's say you have an older scanner, you're looking to upgrade, or even if you have a new scanner and you just don't have all the bells and whistles and you just need a good, steady workflow where you can turn over cases quickly. You may be a wonderful clinician that's doing a lot of digital dentistry, but you just don't have that one established workflow. It's very simple with the Shining 3D workflow. We have the intraoral scanner and the facial scanner to start with. We can merge that with CBCT quite easily. We have the 3D printer for you to be able to print your designs in under an hour, get them into patients' mouths very, very easily. And it all starts with getting it from the right spot. So for us, that's been working with you guys at Roe Dental, being a distributor for Shining 3D, being able to bundle that together at an affordable price. That's the key. You can go spend, $50,000, $60,000 to go bundle all these things, or you can spend a lot less.
It's almost
together.
A third, right?
Yeah, about that. And the new intraoral scanner, when you go with the old intraoral scanner, but the new intraoral scanner, you're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30,000 and change to be able to implement all that structure together and be able to have an intraoral scanner / intraoral photogrammetry unit, a 3D printer, and a facial scanner bundled together in one avenue where you're going to be able to use it. And you have a lab support behind it that's going to be able to help you implement all of that, and the support system to be able to work you through in case you have any little trials and tribulations. So for us, it's been a great partner to work with Roe. It's been great implementing this technology. As we're filming here, a lot of this technology is not even available yet. So we're a little bit ahead of this curve here. By the time this gets released, you'll know all about this intraoral photogrammetry, but Roe has been the backbone of this. They were our early trial phases for this technology. So they know the technology, you guys know the technology, you have an amazing staff here that helps you get through the technology, get cut through all that heavy tape that you try to get through to be able to implement and just start working. You open the stuff up and you get to work and you get these hands staying busy, and Roe helps you get there with Shining 3D.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this presentation. If you need any more information, just go to Roe Dental Laboratory /PhotoG. Lots of great resources there for you.